All right. So welcome to our fourth World Delirium Awareness Day 2021 live session. This is a pit stop designed to recap quickly what we've done with the iDelirium team and talk about where we need to go next to spread delirium awareness. Full disclosure, this session is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube later on, and then tweeted out. If you want to ask questions or you have a comment, please use the chat box or raise your hand. I'll be your moderator today. My name is Heidi Lindroth. My vision is a world without delirium. We must do anything to move the needle to that goal. And I work at Mayo Clinic as a nurse scientist and critical care nurse. We are joined by some of the iDelirium founders, which is Alistair and Rakesh, and the iDelirium 2021 team with Christopher Gabber, Mark Hudson, Liz Sampson. You contributed a video, which was much appreciated, and so did Anna Blythe, and Krish. Thank you so much for joining. And I thought we'd start off with like a super brief round of introductions and a reflection on how what we've taken so far from World Delirium Awareness Day 2021, and then limit the reflections to 1 to 2 minutes tops, so we each get a turn. I've already done my introduction. My reflection is that I tweeted it out earlier. I'm always super inspired by everything I see, all the great work that's being done, and I'm always humbled by how far we need to go. So Rakesh, you want to go next? I'll call on people.
Sure, there you go. So again, the task is why I'm involved with delirium and why I'm
introduction and then reflection.
Yeah, so my name is Rakesh Arora. I am a cardiac surgeon intensivist in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I've been interested in delirium now for, I guess, a while. I gotta say how long, because it makes me feel very old. But my reflections have been started at the very beginning, how little I knew about delirium, and was shocked by my lack of knowledge that caused me to learn everything I can learn about delirium from a lot of people that are on the line today in particular. And I maintain sort of being an important quality metric in what we do in surgery in general. And we need to have a more organized approach for how we manage both risk and then when it occurs post-operatively. So those are my main goals and desires, and need to be involved with this as we continue down this awareness pathway for all of our perioperative team members.
I'm going to go by my screen. Krish, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon from UK. So I'm Mani Krishnan. I'm an old age or a geriatric psychiatrist in the UK, in the northeast of England. I started my delirium journey in 2014 when I took a consultation liaison psychiatry post. And my main goal is to raise awareness. I think there's still a lot of significant lack of understanding, which is the major problem with regard to detection. If you can't detect, if you're not aware delirium kills, you're not going to get the required knowledge or skill. So I have been working with various people, all my friends here, colleagues, and it has been a journey I'm extremely proud of. And look where we have reached. So I'm really proud to be part of this team. Thank you.
Kimberly, do you want to talk? It's okay if you don't.
No, I'm happy to. I was an occupational therapy assistant at the Royal, where I became aware of Professor McCullough's work and then got into delirium and prevention and treatment. Now I'm a physiotherapy student, and I am going to try really hard to make delirium education a part of everything that all the AHPs do at my uni.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Liz Sampson, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Liz Sampson. I work at University College London and at North Middlesex Hospital. My delirium journey started, about 2009, when I did a Medical Research Council research project on dementia and delirium in people in acute hospitals. And as a liaison psychiatrist and an older people's psychiatrist, I've just really continued to try and squeeze delirium research into my my other research projects where I can, and also working clinically as a liaison psychiatrist trying to support local quality improvement programs and spread the word. And I've really enjoyed today, particularly all the wide range of talks on paediatric delirium, all sorts of things that I never really knew anything about. So yeah, really enjoyed it, and thank you to everyone who organised it.
That's great. Anna, do you want to go? Can't hear you. We'll go to Chris and come back to you.
Sure. So my name is Chris. I'm an elder life specialist at Hamilton Health Sciences. I got started in delirium probably like 2013 to 2014. I was working with an anesthesiologist, and I was actually interested in looking at depression in post-operative patients. And then she suggested delirium, and at that time I had no idea what it was. But ever since then, I kind of delved into it. I started the Delirium Care Network, which is just a small team of people where I tried to promote awareness by developing different education materials, infographics. Yeah, as mentioned in the comments, I have helped develop a lot of the campaign logos for the Delirium Awareness Day. Yeah, and now I'm basically, right now I'm doing my master's in health management. I'm trying to get into a management position in healthcare to try to support seniors and standardize delirium care. So that's where I hope to go in my goals. And obviously, I'm just blown away by what our efforts have done over the years in terms of bringing awareness to delirium. So it's really fantastic that this group, we're still getting together and that we've gone so far.
You know, no subtle shout out. The logo this year was designed by Chris as well, as the other ones have been in the past. So thank you, Chris, for that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Alistair, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I started my delirium journey around 2004 when I was a registrar trainee in geriatric medicine, and I was doing cognitive aging research, but I just kept seeing delirium in the wards, and I just thought, why is there very little discussion about this very common problem? And it was a kind of Damascene conversion, and I just, from that moment on, became somebody who spends half my professional life doing it now, as a researcher and also as a clinician. I work with psychiatric patients, so I see delirium every week, lots of delirium clinically, which is a great source of grounding, and making sure that all the research we do is relevant to what we're really seeing in patients. And my research started with quite a lot of pathophysiology stuff, biomarkers, CSF analysis, and quite early I got interested in the measurement of delirium, and I realized that there was still quite a lot of work to do in clinical and research measurement of delirium. So I'm involved in development of various tools. And I think as a natural progression from that, I've become really interested in implementation now, which is an amazing thing because, I think we've come really far in understanding epidemiology of delirium. We've understood we can do quite good research measurement of delirium. We know that prevention works, but we haven't really cracked multi-domain treatment, in research or implementation, and we haven't really implemented any delirium care at scale, apart from in a few good hospitals that do it well. But in general, delirium is still not looked after all that well on a global level. So I think we're probably 5% of the journey in, but we're a lot further than we were 5 years ago. And I think today has been extremely, impressive. I mean, the IDES led the efforts, but the group involved managed to get a very fast response, to requests for videos. And I mean, one funny story is that when the EDA started in 2006, we had a meeting of 30 people in the Netherlands, then we had a meeting of 80 people in Limerick. And we weren't sure about having a meeting the year after that because we thought we would have used up all of the delirium research in the world that had been presented at these two little meetings. And it sort of shows you how far we've come now that we've got, 36 hours of programming with lots of different content. So I think, I actually feel more encouraged than I have done for a long time. And I think that we've got a platform to really spread this and make good delirium care normal. And that's my aim. I've also had an amazing experience just there with Mark and Rebecca and Lou, who were contributing to the patient experience session. Heidi was there as well, and Kimberly, where a lot of things came together to me in that session, and I just thought, wait a minute, why don't we train healthcare professionals formally in how to interact with people with delirium? Because the stories about people being talked over and not being given reassurance, just basic, simple things. So I think that's going to be one of the next projects, and I'm hoping to get some, and Heidi is also very happy to do it, and others, just to develop resources so that we all become trained in how to interact with people with delirium in an effective and kind way, because it's so easy to do and essentially free as long as people know what they're doing. So it's been an amazing day, and it's not even over yet.
We're halfway through here. So Mark, do you want to go and introduce yourself?
Yep. So obviously my experience of delirium is slightly different from everyone else's. My encounter of delirium was in ICU 5 years ago, where I had quite bad ICU delirium. And then last year I had delirium due to sepsis, which was much more mild and a very different experience of delirium. And hopefully aspiring this year to start my undergraduate degree in psychology with the hope of progressing to doing some ICU, post-ICU work. And I think my reflection is that 5 years ago, delirium was barely spoken in the hospitals, and it's now maybe not common, but it certainly is used and is heard. And obviously that's sort of the real impact of the work, is that now people are actually talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with like the 5% there. I feel like when you hear the word delirium, people like delirium's not foreign to hear now, just not, maybe they don't want to talk about it more. But Anna, do you want to see if your audio works? Introduce yourself. Nope.
I'll introduce. Anna Blythe is an advanced nurse practitioner. She works in Cumbria in the northeast of England. She is one of the delirium specialist nurses, works in the community and in hospital, and she joined our delirium journey. And they've got quite an excellent project called Reach Out Project, where not only in the hospital, they reach to the community. And one story I would say is, even in the middle of COVID, Alistair talked about communication. Their staff, had a full PPE, went and held the patient's hand, those who are suffering with delirium. That gave them comfort. So that's really a moving story she mentioned. And they won like a parliamentary award for their project. So very pleased to have her in our group and without audio today.
Congratulations on that. So what I thought we could do next is build off of what Alistair said, and that what do we need to do next year? What do we need to do? I mean, not even next year, like tomorrow, like where do we need to go to move us forward on this journey? It's sort of a free for all. So
yeah, can I start? Yeah, my thoughts are, again, we've got the dream team today, and we've got the extended dream team outside of for those who couldn't join today. I really feel, I mentioned it in our earlier session in the PitStop last week to Alistair and Mark and others. I really think we have done as a globally with not spending a lot of money, we were managed to pull together, like, I've just last checked, 14.6 million impression on Twitter on WDAD, and the Marchathon even just we created a hashtag, we've got nearly kind of a 9 million impressions, and the biggest thing, great things doesn't come with millions of pounds of money. So we did it together because we are all passionate about delirium care. But policymakers, let's go to WHO. People haven't understood delirium as an entity. Even when it comes to COVID, they put confusion as the 6th symptom in WHO symptom list. And we've been shouting about delirium could be the only symptom of COVID, but it took about 8 months before research came out, especially in older adults. So I really think as a group of academics and clinicians, we should be sending almost like a couple of pages of a call for the WHO to say, recognize delirium is something, I know we've got a lifespan of delirium, but delirium is a part of healthy aging. If we don't treat delirium, the aging will be a very eventful aging. And so I really think, if at all, one thing I would take away between now and next year, apart from all the great things we could do, is we should be getting a consensus, like a little plea to the World Health Organization, recognize, because as you know, this decade is the decade of healthy aging. So that's my wish list.
I absolutely agree with that. Who wants to, Rakesh, do you want to go next?
Sure. I mean, I think again, the key point of all this is awareness. So I think we need people talking about it, looking for it, and using the right language. We tend to minimize things that happen in the perioperative space. I'll speak specifically to my little microcosm of the surgical world, where when things are common, we attribute it to just being part of what happens with normal care, be it pain. Pain's probably not okay. We probably need to do a better job for pain management. Lack of mobilization. We probably need to do a better job with that. Delirium awareness, recognition, and management. We talk about it, I think, with increasing frequencies we've heard about, and I think that's fantastic. That's the first step. But now we need to go to, what are we going to do about it? I think that's Alistair's point, that is now the time to start acting upon the recognition. We're at that tipping point where people are talking about enough but don't know what to do, and then we need to start providing tools. This is how your team starts, and it has to be in a way that's feasible in the real world for busy post-operative ward practice.
And I think, yeah, absolutely. And how do we do that I think, how do we continue to use this format? Like you said, Krish, like we have done it with little money and raised so much.
Really, like no money. We did this, most of us off the side of our desks. It's actually free so far, other than time spent, which is not a small feat, to be honest with you. So there's obviously a lot of people that are really engaged in this area. It's just, again, finding champions, trying to find champions where you work to kind of engage with you. I think from an MD perspective, it cannot happen in isolation. You have a dyad or triad of different members of your team to help enact it to the entire team, and then involving patients and families. I think we've talked about it here. We've talked about elsewhere when people come through the door for cardiac surgery, that we should be part of the consent, that delirium can occur. Giving family the tools and being part of that process for helping manage it post-operatively is another way we can leverage resources without spending a lot of money. We're using people in HR that's already there. That's one opportunity I think that we could look to capitalize on.
Just to answer to Rakesh's point, I agree. And then Alistair mentioned about quality improvement as one of the things. Again, coming back to no money, because I'm very thrifty. Like Marchathon, I would like to propose Delirium Hackathon next. I think we need to hack delirium with people, group of experts, not just clinicians, IT experts, technology, AI people, how we can do delirium care in a smart way without, reinventing the wheel. Today we've got about 50 videos on YouTube with people with, various levels of skills. This poster we all have, I did it in 10 minutes and I just learned my way through Canva. So what we can do, I think IT people, they do what they call hacking. So if you think of embedding delirium detection in electronic health record, dashboards, how people can get alert, Rakesh will know with regard to cardiac surgery, there are a lot of things are automated now. You don't need clinical look. So I think, again, we should not forget about how to talk to patients. That's an important thing. But some of these things, if engine does other things, we can actually do what we are trained to do, talk to patients, support the patient. I do think that we need to bring multi-professional outside of the medical field together to hack delirium.
Yeah, go for it, Alistair. I was going to say I love that idea. Oh.
Yes, I mean, so I think if we're trying to set some goals, so that we don't always have the slide that says delirium is under detected, for example. I think one of the key things we need is brutal honesty about performance of hospitals and healthcare systems and processes that are in place. Because I'm going to be really frank, if you've got a tool that doesn't work, and I've heard this in many visits to hospitals, tools being used that are, nurses are doing, but the detection rates are really low. Even if it's a tool that's revered and built in, and I think you need to say, well, actually, how much delirium are we detecting? And just sort of, any tools that seem to be working quite well, can we make them work better? I think there's a lot of chat about delirium prevention, and I think that I honestly don't think that we should be pushing for schemes that cost a lot of money and need armies of volunteers. I don't think that's going to work. I think we should be looking for lighter touch methods that are built into routine care. And I think that we also need to look at implementation of prevention rather than just the studies, because the studies are done under special conditions with lots of staff. What we need to do is do process of care studies that says, right, in an average hospital, what's the low-hanging fruit for delirium prevention? How many people are getting dehydrated? How many people are being poisoned with drugs they shouldn't get? Things like that. So these are two things I think we need to just move the field forward. We need to break free, from some of the kind of sacred cows and actually just say, actually, what is happening in large healthcare systems, because we now have opportunities from electronic healthcare records assessment, to really tell. And, using the UK data, where we're not there yet, but it's really interesting to see we can just use national databases to see how much delirium is being coded. I keep asking Twitter for other countries to provide this. We're just flying blind. We don't know how much delirium does Germany detect? How much does Spain detect? How much does Canada detect? How much does, United States is so big, it's probably done by state, but or by healthcare system. How much delirium does the VA detect? I'd love to just know that, because I think that's that brings you to reality, doesn't it? If it's 3% delirium positive rates in some studies I've seen in populations where it's definitely 15 or 20%, something needs to be done about that. And we can't go on pretending that that's effective, that system. Do you know what I mean? So I think we've kind of gone from pleading from the outside to say, please pay attention to delirium, care about it, to, yeah, we've seen some centers where it can work. And now we're saying, actually, no more Mr. Nice Guy, like, this is a very serious problem. Double-figure percentages of patients have it. We now got ample evidence that the mortality rates are high, 1 in 6 at 30 days, high risk of future dementia. We're no longer going to accept this kind of slow progress. I think we need to be much more aggressive, and I love that suggestion of just confronting senior policymakers, big policymakers in our countries and around the world. I think Australia and the UK has been great for setting standards. ICU in America have also got these things. Canada, I think you've got your care standards or regional ones, but where are the care standards in other countries? Where are they? Why is there not policies? I think it just needs to be upgraded, and probably with less persuasion and more just, not really aggression's not the word, but just with more like, come on guys, right? We've done a lot of work. Let's now move it forward in a more mainstream kind of a way. So I'm hoping that in 5 years' time we'll check back and say, yeah, that there was real progress at sort of countrywide scales rather than just in a few pockets of good practice.
Is it okay if I chip in there? So first of all, as everyone's talking about IT, I have to apologise. I've just realised that my picture's back to front. So it's been a long day.
Oh, for us, it looks correct.
Oh, does
I knew
it?
it will look the other way.
Oh, that's it. There you go. I've given away my incompetence even further. So I agree with all of this, and what I'm trying to think about is the systems change and the systems, how we lever systems. And so I think what would be really helpful is to have a very, I don't know, it would take a team of people to do this, and I'd be very happy to help with this, is to have a very broad sweep of policies with a very open mind. So these could be national health policies, a whole range of policies that government are trying to implement, and see which of them include levers which might be relevant to delirium care. So it might be that the UK government has a policy about shortening the length of hospital stay. And that's a really good policy lever for delirium, because we know that delirium is one of the main levers of prolonging hospital stay. There might be other countries that have major policies around falls. And then it's about identifying those levers and bringing them together from all these disparate different policies and guidelines, and showing how delirium links into all of those different areas. It's been useful in other fields of research that I've been involved in. And you can often find really good levers in places where you're not expecting to find them. So you have to cast your net quite wide. It could be buried away in some community care policy. It could be buried away in the general practice policy. But really highlighting that and bringing that all together, and then producing very short, concise policy briefs that you then go to the policymakers with, can be very effective. And my experience of working with short, concise policy briefs is that they can be really useful documents and tools in pushing things forward in different countries.
I have to jump to the meeting, everyone. Thanks so much.
Okay, cheers.
Enjoy the rest of World Delirium Awareness Day.
Can I just ask Liz about the practical side of that? Like, if we were going to see that's a really interesting vision, and aligns with what Chris was saying, but how would that happen? Would we have to form some kind of working group, or, you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. And as I alluded to earlier, I mean, I find it difficult to get direct grant funding for delirium research, and I squeeze it into other projects. And so I like a lot of the delirium work I've done, it would be having groups of people who are willing to convene, meet together. I mean, at least with PDFs and with search tools online, it's very easy to scan large numbers of documents for delirium, say. And then you just pull it together, and sometimes it's a sort of project that we might get a med student to do if they're on placements. I think the hardest thing really is just pulling it together and getting it started, a bit like what you've done with, you know, I mean, if you think the tiny seed of World Delirium Awareness Day and what it's grown to, then it's the same with this type of policy review, obviously on a much smaller scale, that you get the seed of the idea, you build a group of interesting people who are willing to all say, look, I'll screen 5 documents, you get everyone to send in ideas of documents to look at, and then it doesn't take too long if the work's divided up to begin to really map the policy and where the levers might be. I mean, it's very context specific, so it will be different in every country, but that can be a useful exercise in itself, because then you're comparing different countries as well.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder whether something the ADS or NIDAS might, you know, consider doing about, you know, what is this, where is delirium in public policy in the United States? You know, where is it? You know, I know some quite militant geriatricians have pointed out that there are no geriatricians on Joe Biden's COVID task force, but there are 2 pediatricians on it. You know, so there's a sort of lack of visibility in general for older age medicine, older age care. You know, it probably affects most countries. So I think you do need to knock on the door. I don't think you can just expect it to happen organically. But it starts with an analysis, doesn't it? I mean, like we're doing a systematic review just now of, you know, studies that have reported delirium coding, you know, in all the researchers ever that have done delirium coding for, you know, rather than directly measuring the rates of delirium, just to expose the chaos of the lack of healthcare system awareness of delirium, I mean, to try and prompt. So I suppose, as you say at the beginning, it's just this canvas, you know, what is the current state? And does, like, for example, you could just search the World Health Organization website. Does the word delirium even appear, you know, anywhere in that website? Because it'll probably have thousands of pages on other stuff, but
Yeah.
schizophrenia or depression, rightly so, tuberculosis, but where's delirium? Because delirium is probably similar size of problem as tuberculosis, maybe not as big, but it's certainly a biggie, isn't it, in health
absolutely.
as a health burden, you know, so it should have a
Yeah.
big status.
I think Mark is raising his hand.
Yeah, so I have a very different view of the problem from yourselves, and I think that the first hurdle we need to overcome is a sort of universal level of delirium education across all of the healthcare professions, not just medicine, but physios, occupational therapists, speech and language. Everybody that has contact with patients needs to have the same high level delirium education, because delirium, you know, as we all know, it's not any one person's problem, it's everybody's problem. So everybody needs to be able to identify it. And I think that's the most immediate thing. I think that's the thing that would have the biggest impact and the most prolonged impact, because if you improve the education on delirium from the bottom up, eventually, if everyone is trained at high quality level, eventually it filters all the way up. And I think that that's where I see the direct path of improving everything in terms of delirium is just, yeah, you have to have a solid foundation, and from then we can build our big dreams. But if everyone is not understanding the problem, then we're all paddling in different directions and we're just going to go round and round in circles.
I think that is really important, Mark, and I'm not saying that the two are mutually exclusive, and I think certainly we found the most effective ways when you have the bottom up and the top down both coming together at the same time. I think that can be really powerful when you've got both of those working together. Because if we want to make AHPs and other healthcare professionals aware, sometimes that does require some top-down leverage to say they must all have this in their training. So
Yes.
I think it's really important what you say. It's like bottom up and then top down, and those approaches, like a pincer movement, would probably be really effective.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also having a patient leaders like yourselves, Mark, is very powerful lever, because we can shout from the top of a rooftop, but from somebody who has gone through it, you were able to articulate, and we probably overwhelmed you in the last few days, that, you know, making it again and again, but still it is, every time we hear, it's very powerful. Some of the policymakers, they need to hear, because the 5-minute talk could be much better than, like, you know, 200 pages of documents. So I do think having that patient leader, like, you know, you are the voice of those patients and families, I think that will be really important.
I feel like it puts the why, like that's why we're doing this. Like, I feel like that's why iDelirium, like there is such an awesome response from people all over the globe. It's because there's a strong why behind it. And it just, I think as humans, we're attracted to the why. We want to know why we're doing things. So we're 7 minutes over, which is awesome. I don't know if there's any final words. I have to go at 12 and 3 minutes, unfortunately. So
I'm looking forward to WDAD 2021, but we will not wait for that date. Let's carry on doing whatever we are doing every day, every month, and then, you know, have some touch point. I think Alistair's point about there's no good having these events, but like, what is the outcome? You know, what's the percentage change? Because, you know, they talk about give me the money. So, you know, how can you measure that? You know, one thing, my measurement was what I have done in my hospital. At least people are writing, calling it a delirium. That's a success, but that's not a success in a sense. That should have been, you know, understood. They should have done. But how can we do detection, prevention, and how we measure it, so that after all these 14 million impressions, what's the change we see would be the important thing for me. But we have got an amazing crowd. The key is to do great things, you don't need millions of dollars.
Yes, I mean, I would say that one of the very exciting changes, really a pivotal change in the whole field, is going to be routine data, you know, where you can honestly see how much delirium is being detected, and just, you know, because almost by accident, you've already got a running study, you know, and then you keep doing education, you can see the trends change, and that's what we're seeing locally. We're not there yet, but you know, it's a very economically effective way to monitor performance, isn't it? For certain parameters, it's not for the whole thing. As I say, Mark's got, there's other things you need to do, training, everything. But in terms of like overall presence of delirium in your EHR, you know, and maneuvers that are done once delirium is detected, that could be studied quite cheaply now. You know, if you, as long as you've got the right tech, and you know, Emma Vardy has shown that in Salford, and Leslie Young in Sunderland. So we should really be doing this, you know, routinely, and reporting it routinely as a quality metric.
Yep.
It's a black hole, just it's a void, you know, it's strangely silent, isn't it, the field? You know, it's still, I'd love to see just much more reporting of this publicly, and maybe there's a commercial interest in not doing it if it's not going well in some places, or I don't know what. But anyway, that's one, I think, one key thing alongside policy and education.
Yeah, it makes me think if we should, if we just start reporting in the institutions we're in, that we're able to, will that catch on? I don't know. Sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what is the Mayo Clinic, you know, what's the rate of in emergency patients in the Mayo Clinic, what's the rate of delirium detection? You know, maybe the world's most famous hospital, you know, probably, or one of them anyway. Do you know what I mean? And you know, MGH, like I think other iconic hospitals, you know, they should be good at delirium, you know. And if they're not,
I have a lot of job security. The Jim said yesterday, there's a lot of job security because there's a lot of work to do. So
yeah.
Well, it's 12:10. I hate to end this, but thank you all so much for joining. You're an amazing team, and I feel so honored to be part of it. So carry on.
You so
we have
much.
more time to go. So
All right.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.